Hello and welcome. Today we're going to tackle a problem that has, let's be honest, probably plagued Apex developers for years: how to automate really complex business processes. We're going to explore how the new workflow feature is an absolute game changer, letting us move way beyond simple approvals and into some true enterprise-level automation. Let's get right into it.
Does this feel familiar at all? You're trying to manage a process that has multiple steps, different approvals, all this conditional logic, and it just feels like you're wrestling with a giant spaghetti monster of custom code and tables. Well, you're not alone. This is the exact problem that Apex workflows are designed to solve.
So let's kick things off with the fundamental shift that's happened here. For a long time, Apex had an approvals component. And look, it was useful, but it was also pretty limited. Now we have something so much more powerful.
Okay, on the left, you see the old way, the approvals component. It was fine for simple A to B to C tasks, but it really fell apart the second you needed more complex logic or parallel branches or any kind of automated steps. But on the right, well, that's the new workflows. This is a completely different world. We're talking about a full-scale BPMN-like engine that lives right inside your database. And if you've never heard of BPMN, it's just the industry standard for modeling out business processes. This is a massive leap forward for Apex.
So why should you make the switch? Well, I've got 4 huge reasons. First, state management. You can stop building custom status columns. The engine just knows exactly where every single process is at any given moment. Second, visibility. You can actually see where things are getting stuck. Third, auditability. Every single action is logged automatically, which is a huge win for compliance. And finally, reliability. If your server has to reboot, the workflow just picks up right where it left off. I mean, these are genuine enterprise-grade features.
All right, so how does this magic actually happen under the hood? The architecture is actually beautifully simple, and it's made up of 2 key layers. The best way to think about it is like a blueprint for a house versus the actual house being built.
First up, you have the workflow definition. This is your master plan, your blueprint. You build this visually over in shared components, laying out all the possible steps, the decision points, and the variables your process is going to need. It's static. It's the template.
And then you have the workflow instance. So every time somebody submits a new order or a leave request, Apex spins up a live running copy of your blueprint. This instance has its own state, its own data, and it travels through the process that you defined. You can have thousands of these instances all running at the same time, and each one is perfectly tracked.
These right here are the Lego bricks you'll use to build your workflows. You've got user tasks, which is anytime you need a person to do something. Then there are script tasks for your automatic PL/SQL code. Service tasks are for reaching out to external systems, like calling a web API. And finally, you have gateways, which are basically your decision points. With these 4 building blocks, you can create pretty much any process imaginable.
Okay, so you get the what and the why. Now, let's talk about the how. How do you actually build one of these things? Well, it really just boils down to a clear 4-step plan.
That's it. Just 4 key phases to take your business logic from an idea on a whiteboard to a fully automated process running right inside your Apex application.
First, you define everything visually in shared components. It's all drag, drop, and connect. Second, you set the logic on the transitions. Those are the lines connecting the boxes. Especially for your gateways. This is where you put your conditions. Something like amounts greater than 1,000. Third, you have to kick it off. You use the Apex workflow.startWorkflow API call in a page process. And fourth, you give your users a place to actually see their pending work by creating a unified task list. It's really as simple as that.
Now, theory is great and all, but let's see how this actually applies to real-world business problems. This is where the power really becomes tangible.
Just imagine an IT service desk where a request is automatically routed for approval, then on to procurement and finally closed with an automated script. Or what about HR onboarding, where you can kick off parallel tasks for security and IT provisioning at the same time? Even e-commerce gets way more streamlined by automating payment verification, stock checks, and sending out shipping notifications. I mean, the possibilities here are just endless.
Of course, whenever you're building something, you're going to hit a few bumps in the road. So, let's head off some of the common ones. If your workflow is stuck in active, I bet you 9 times out of 10, it's because a user task doesn't know who to assign the task to. Just check your participant settings. Getting a PL/SQL error? Make sure you're referencing your workflow variables with the correct colon syntax. And if a transition just isn't firing, it's probably because your condition evaluated to null. The easy fix? Always have a default path out of a gateway.
And here, listen up.
This is a crucial point that is going to save you hours of pain. Workflow variables are case sensitive. I'm serious. If you define a variable as amount with a capital A, but then you try to reference it as $amount in all caps, it will fail. Just remember that. It will save you a headache. Trust me.
Okay, once you've got that tip locked into your brain, you're ready for the fun part. You've seen the power, you've seen the architecture, and you've seen the implementation plan. Now it's your turn to put all this knowledge into practice.
So it's time for you to put your skills to the test. Your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to build a holiday request workflow that has an automated escalation. So if a manager doesn't approve a request within 24 hours, the task should be automatically routed to the HR director. This is a great way to practice everything we've covered today.
So as we wrap up, I'm going to leave you with this final thought. I want you to look around at the processes in your organization. You know the ones that are tied up in endless email chains and complicated spreadsheets. Now that you know what's possible, what's the very first process you're going to transform with Apex Workflows?